This week on Hope City Overtime, we talk about the shield of faith, what it means to have faith, what are some of the things that fight against that faith. This is one you're going to want to like, subscribe. Let's get it.
Welcome to Hope City Overtime, a weekly podcast where we take a little more time to dive into Sunday's message. And we are in the Arena series. It's interesting. I talked to someone this week who called it the Pulse series. And I was like, what are you talking about? And she's like, if your enemy has a pulse, you're fighting the wrong enemy. And I think it is true. You kind of mentioned on Sunday that people may know that phrase better than some of the actual scripture. But it just shows how meaningful this has been, that we're learning that we are in a fight, who the real enemy is, and more importantly, what God has equipped us with to step into that arena. And so this week we were on the shield of faith. Before we get into what that was, you asked this question in your sermon: what was your favorite piece of armor as a kid? Like growing up in church, when you'd hear about the armor of God, what was the piece that you gravitated towards the most?
The sword.
Yeah.
That's what it's about.
It has to be the sword.
It's a bunch of boys.
It's all
Of
about the
course.
sword.
Absolutely.
For me, it was the shoes. But I was a shoe girl. Yeah.
Yeah.
Just because it was a weapon?
Mm-hmm.
Of course. I mean,
Yeah. What kid wouldn't want a sword?
right.
This kid. Sorry.
Yeah.
But, man, I can't believe that was such a boring answer.
Sorry.
It's
I
okay.
mean, if there were the
No.
nunchucks of faith or something, I mean,
Yeah.
Maybe.
Yeah. Well, that's fun. We'll get to the sword in a couple weeks.
Yep.
Did you have like play sets of armor? Like I know my brother had a little knight set, so it wasn't like Roman armor, but he had the little helmet that was way too small because Kramers have big heads. And he had the little breastplate and the sword. Did you guys have that sort of thing?
Mine was He-Man. I was a huge He-Man fan, so I had like He-Man's sword and
Yeah, the
shield.
He-Man sword?
oh yeah.
Golly.
Yeah.
I knew it, man.
I do recall that I had one as well. But also, I mean, I know this doesn't officially count, but I also had racing stuff. So I had racing helmets and fire suits.
As a kid?
Oh, yeah. They were costumes.
Yeah. Cool.
But there's no shields with those.
Yeah. No, I mean, as a kid, those were the two easiest things to make was a sword out of like cardboard, and then a shield was like, I don't even got to make it. I just got to get a nice square piece and like hold it. So
Trash
those-
can lids.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, another easy one. So swords and shields were the main go-to for imagination time.
That's it.
Yeah. Yeah. I remember my parents got a new refrigerator at some point when I was a kid. And that box lasted us forever. First, it was a house.
Yep.
Then eventually that fell apart and it became mostly weapons.
Yeah, my boys are 15. I think about 2 years ago, we finally threw away one of the boxes that we turned into a rocket ship / house / fort.
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah. This is kind of jumping ahead a little bit, but we'll get back into like what the shield of faith is. But I believe it was you made a comment about how often we are grabbing for toy shields instead of the shield of faith that God gives us. So I wanted to start with the lesser shields, like some of the things that we try to put our faith in before we get into the reality of the shield of faith in Christ. What are some of the like toy shields, if you will, that you kind of see either you personally having a tendency to reach for, or just people having been a pastor for a while that you see people reaching for?
I feel like whatever you put your identity and security in, so for many times it is your career, what you do, and you want that to protect who you are, to guard who you are, and you learn quickly that those things can be taken from you. You can forfeit them so easy. So I think it's wherever we find our stability in, or at least where we attempt to put it in.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think on a real practical side, you look at social media as a whole, like that is a curated feed of exactly what you want people to see. It's that protection of my family, my persona, my everything. And so I really look at social media as a shield that a lot of people will use, not only to keep people out, but also to keep themselves in.
Mm-hmm. You have thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, I think they both took the two obvious answers. Thanks.
You're welcome.
But they're still kind of broad. Like, I
Yeah.
think there are some more specific.
So I think if we're talking about what people use to put their hope in, the reality that they choose to put their trust and confidence in, I would argue often it's relational. So like it's my relationship as a dad, my relationship as a husband, my relationship as even to some degree, my performance as a child of God, right? Like, so we'll put faith in that or hope in that versus the faith and hope that we should have. And, to John's point, all of these things fail, right? And it's not that these things are bad inherently. I think when our faith is in the right place and our hope is in the right place, we are better dads. When our hope is in the right place, our faith is in the right place, we are better coworkers. We're better at pursuing the goals that the Lord places in front of us. We're better at looking more like Him. But it is a nuance that we got to be careful of. It's not that I put my hope in my ability to be. I'm not putting my hope in my performance. I'm putting my hope in the one that empowers me to do. And I think that ultimately that's a tough one for a lot of people.
Yeah. And it's the type of thing you don't realize outside of the grace of God and conviction of the Spirit until you are in a situation where you need to raise a shield of faith, where something goes wrong in your life, that you can realize, oh, like I get this picture of being up against a dragon with this tiny plastic shield that just like...
I think often the shards of toy shields are reflected when the fight comes and your response is, but I am but I went to school for 4 years. But I did all the right things in my marriage. But what you're revealing is what you've put your faith and hope into. And I think that often that's where people can identify what are some of those toy shields that they find themselves trying to pick up.
Yeah. Yeah. So if you're watching or listening, just kind of keep in mind what some of those things might be for you as we talk about the shield of faith that God actually gives us. Because I think sometimes there's such small nuances we don't even realize we've taken up the wrong shield. And even in the last week, I've been convicted of just where are the actions looking the same, but what my faith is in is really my own ability versus my faith in Jesus Christ, who He is, what He's done. So you can't have a conversation about faith without talking about what faith is. It's one of those words we like to throw around. We like to paint it on 90s kitchen walls and, crochet it on pillows. But what does it actually mean to have faith? Anyone?
Well, faith is the substance of things we hope for, the evidence of things we don't see.
Right. It sounds like you read that somewhere.
It's a great definition.
It's found in His Word.
And on a lot of pillows at Hobby Lobby.
You can crochet it onto pillows, I heard.
But is it revised or revisited?
Wow.
You guys.
This one is classic, bedrock. I think, again, it was funny because I asked my girls that question just, and they instantly, they thought I was trying to, trip them up. And I'm like, no. I genuinely want you to answer. And one of them said, well, to me, faith is. And I said, see, you're saying that because you're trying to almost protect your answer in case it's wrong. It's like, no, for me. And I was like, the reality is faith has to mean the same to all of us because it's not ours to alter. It is what faith is. At the end of the day, faith is this just confident certainty that we have, this trust in Him. In Him for what? In Him to be who He said He is and to do what He said He'll do. So there's just a confidence that I have in Him that produces action. So it's not just a state of mind where I trust Him. I prove whether or not I trust Him by just what I choose to do every day. If I turn to myself and I turn inwards, then I'm proving to myself I trust me more. So there's just a confidence. Faith is a genuine confidence. And so even as I say that, with New Living Translation changing it, I do understand why they would. Because there are moments I can feel more confident in my walk in the Lord today based on how I'm feeling. Tomorrow, maybe I won't feel as confident because I've allowed myself to entertain certain thoughts. So now my confidence is not as strong. When the New Living says that faith is the reality, it showcases what the real thing is, that does take it out of my hands and establishes as truth, no matter whether I feel confident in it or not. It doesn't change or alter the reality of what it is. So I can appreciate that translation of that faith is what is real, of the things that we hope for, and the assurance, the guarantee that what he said he'll do, he'll do. But I've learned even through this series of the importance of understanding it with my mind, but experiencing it with my life, that it solidifies even more what faith is for me.
Talk a little bit about, we kind of use these words faith and hope interchangeably, and Hebrews 11 does say that faith is the confidence that what we hope for will actually happen. And I know this is a soapbox for me because it has slowly started to really bother me the way that we use hope day to day, because we'll say like, I hope I get that job, or I hope I do well on this test. And it's things that we don't know what's going to happen for them.
Yeah.
That's not what the writer of Hebrews and what Paul are talking about here. So what's the difference between like a wishful thinking kind of hope and the actual faith and hope that we put in God?
Yeah. You guys want to jump off?
I'm going to let y'all, because I'd like to figure this out myself.
No, so it's based on a confidence. So wishful thinking has a tendency of being this ethereal. It's not grounded in anything. You know, I really hope that.
Yeah, I hope you have a good day.
Yeah.
Like,
Whereas the hope defined by Paul is grounded in the reality of the person of Jesus. So we hope for things we don't see because of the reality of the person of Jesus. So what does that look like? Well, we hope for our salvation. We have hope for our salvation because of what Jesus has done and what he's made available. We have hope for our sanctification. Why? Because according to what we read in his word, that sanctification is a product of a God who is the author and finisher of our faith, and what he starts, he'll complete. We have a hope for an eternity with him. We have a hope for a day where we'll be face to face. We have a hope that death has lost its sting. Well, John, you don't see any of those things. Yeah, but it doesn't make them less real. And my reality is based on the person of Christ. So we hope for because of who we hope in. And I think that that's where blind, that blind kind of wishful thinking hope concept really does do a lot of damage to a believer. Because, when you say things like, my hope is in Jesus, they're like, yeah, well, I hope about a lot of things. But
I hope I win the lottery.
Yeah, that picture of putting my faith in the reality of the person of Christ Jesus, the one who we hope in for all that we hope for, is what really makes this concept of faith that Paul is communicating so incredibly essential to the believer.
Yeah. You had a great illustration that I'm annoyed you didn't share with these guys, but it came to you last minute.
Yeah.
Talk a little bit about language fluency and how that translates, see what I did there, to our faith.
Yeah, so again, I wanted to hit both of you guys up. It was late at night, and I was like, I got it. It connected with me. I understood where it was going. I didn't know if it was going to land well. So I would like to be fluent in Spanish, so I say. And I do want to. I just don't make any effort. So maybe I don't want to as bad as I say I want to. I came across this video where the guy said it would take a person 6 months to speak Spanish fluently if they were to practice it every day. He said it would take them 6 years to learn Spanish fluently if all they did was study it and just keep it in here, reading it and just kind of practicing it, but not speaking it out in any way. So the guy was saying, so you're saying it's less about like the time and it's more about the reps, he was saying. He was like, yeah, when it comes to speaking fluently, you have to talk it out. It has to be actions. That's when I felt the Spirit reminded me, many folks, they are learning the concept of faith and we are studying about it and we're learning about it and we're here, but we're not going to speak it or live it until we felt that we've mastered it.
Man, that's good.
And I've just learned that I understand faith better when I do have an understanding of it, but I practice what I know, I see it happen, it makes even more sense because I'm now living it out. So as I live out what I know, faith makes so much more sense. So many of us are trying to comprehend what faith is just off of this passage, and we'll be in the room going back and forth, and we think we got a good answer, and then we walk away and we're still like, man, it's because faith is meant to be lived out for you to fully understand the magnitude of what faith is. And it's the same thing with everyone else. We can teach a great lesson, and if I could master one sentence to explain what faith is, people still won't fully get it enough where they'll be convinced by just holding on to that. When you start living out your faith, it makes so much sense why that is, because the evidence comes from his life. He has proven time and time again what he will do, how he will do it from generation to generation. He has been faithful. He is all the evidence we need. Once he says it, I know it will happen. So he's who I put my hope in because he is the rock solid bedrock foundation of what he says will happen. So I don't have to see anything happening for me to lose any certainty or gain more certainty. He said it. My hope is in him. That's all I need because he's proven himself to be true. And he's the evidence now of the things that I cannot see. So when I saw that clip, I was like, oh my gosh, how many times we don't want to share our faith because we don't feel certain that we have the right verbiage. As you start saying it more, you get better at it, and then you get more confident at it, and then you're not even thinking about it no more. And that's how confidence grows. You don't even think about the things you're confident about anymore. You do it because you're confident in it. And I realize that's how faith works. When I just live it because it's from a place of confidence that I'm no longer going back and forth with myself, I know the one in who I walk with, and I do it out of this confidence. And that messed with me. I was like, man, that thing was good.
Yeah. And I don't even think it's just about being able to share our faith. Like, I think that's part of it. But it even kind of took the pressure off a little bit, what it looks like to walk in faith. Like, it's something that has to be practiced.
Yep.
And I think sometimes we have it in our head, like, if I just study enough, I'm going to know the right answer, and then I'll be able to walk in faith no matter what happens.
Yeah.
And at least in my experience, it has looked a little clunkier, and there have been some like steps that I wish were more sure than they were, but in God's grace, like, he still held me steady even though I wasn't taking sure steps. How has that been? Like, I just kind of want to talk personally, as your faith has grown, how do you see that progression from like kind of a stutter step, if you will? I'm really proud of the language that I'm coming up with right now, but I'm not cool enough to just let it sit there.
Yeah.
Like stutter steps in your faith versus like getting to strong steps.
So if you were asking me, John, how do you wrap faith up in a statement? Like, often what I would say is faith is what we put our weight into. And what I mean by that is, because we can talk faith till we're blue in the face, and I can't tell you how many people will talk faith, but to John's point, the reps aren't there, right? It's the guy going to the gym that knows the way everybody should be doing the exercises, but has not touched the barbell in 10 years, and you can tell, right? Like, so if you're not putting your weight into it, and so when it comes to like the difference between that first initial, there's always that testing out phase. There's that, I'm not sure of this all, but I'm trusting. I think that process is really difficult for a lot of believers to kind of navigate through. And that's why I believe that often at the beginning of your faith journey, there's that excitement, there's that, that adrenaline of all that God is doing. And it's so clearly God making shifts and changes that at that point, I think for a lot of believers, that's a great season of testing faith, because you're willing to test, you're willing to see. And then eventually, we put faith in things all the time and don't even think about it, right? You sat in that chair and didn't one time think about whether or not it could handle the weight. Like, that's not even a thought, right?
Until right now when you bring it up. And thanks for that.
But you've put faith in the chair before. And it's funny because you've probably put faith in this chair before you ever sat down on it, even the first time, because you have had so much experience with other chairs, right? So to John's point, I think ultimately it's that the more we understand about the character and person of Christ, the more we lean in to all that he's done, so we're learning, the more that we glean from the community around us. Look, there's other people who've sat in this chair and it could hold their weight. The more likely we are to be comfortable putting the full weight of who we are. Often when dealing with this in individuals who are like, I'm just struggling a little bit to put all my weight in him. One of my questions is like, how's it going for you now? Like, you got to be putting your weight somewhere. And apparently it's not working out for you. He is the only one that doesn't shift, the one thing that doesn't change.
Yeah.
And so when we put our full weight in him and find that place where, I know I come back to this passage often, but this reminds me of Jesus saying, come to me all who are weary and heavy burden, because we're weary and heavy burden because we've been carrying the weight. But when we lean, we put our faith into him, we put our hope into him, we find rest.
Yeah.
And I think that's critical.
Yeah. I remember like when my kids were younger, and I feel like every parent has this scenario where you're trying to introduce them to the water, to the pool.
Yeah.
And they're outside and it's like, jump to me. And they're so hesitant. I remember how hesitant my kids were. Well, I'm like, good night. Just trust me. You're going to have a good time. Get in the water. And there was hesitance. And then they would finally do it. I would grab them. I could feel their heart rate going. Every couple of moments we'll try it again. And it got to the point where these jokers would jump even if I'm not ready. Because they got that confident that I was going to catch them.
I'm not looking
And
at
I'm
you.
like, oh my God, boom. And I got them and they're laughing. And my heart rate is going because I was like, I wasn't ready. But over time and over repetition, they've got so accustomed to me catching them that they were able to enjoy what first created risk and a rush of emotion. There was now just this certainty that wherever they jumped, they were going to be caught. I think that's the way it is with our faith journey. There's small things that the Lord will ask of us to see if we trust him. With our education, with maybe this course, maybe with this calling, maybe we're trusting him with this amount. This is my last $20. I feel like this is what he's telling me to give. And then there are bigger things and bigger things. And the more we continue to trust him, there are the bigger things. Abraham would have never sacrificed his son like that had he not had other experiences where he trusted. He would have not moved his entire family had he not had other experiences. So they always start in areas where the Lord knows he can kind of more. David, same way. Like there's stages that he takes our faith through. And we only look to the big ones and say, I could never do that. Yeah, I couldn't have started there either. But he didn't start me there. He started me all the way here. So I think every time we practice the faith and live the faith life, it does become more natural for us.
Gotta get those reps in.
Yeah.
It's funny too, because I think often when we have conversations of the faith journey, and this is where we have to be careful in 2026, we communicate a gospel that says, come to God and all these things go away. You find this place where it's easy and comfortable and natural, and that I don't know if that's your experience. My experience spiritually in a lot of ways has been the exact opposite. I came to Jesus and all these doors begin to open, all these opportunities begin to open. All of these advancement opportunities that required work, that required seasons of being uncomfortable. The difference is he's with me and my faith is in him and he's carrying me through. But the idea that this is supposed to be easy, it's why Paul frames this in the picture of a fight. Because again, we're not even waiting for the fight. We're warring against the gates of hell. That's the picture painted in Scripture. Yeah. So that means if you're waking up and not taking ground, right? If you're waking up and you're not progressing and advancing the kingdom of God, and I know, like, hear me, I understand seasons of rest and seasons of Sabbath, and I get that all. But even in those seasons, what's the intention of the season? To re-energize you for the next season. So I love, we have a community of pastors who, the official term would be retired. I don't like that term.
Neither do they.
Well, some of them are okay with it. It's great. But what I keep telling them and what they keep, so the season changes, but we're still advancing the kingdom. You know, maybe it's a mentorship. Like it looks a little different. You might not be the one calling the shots, but like the kingdom of God still needs advancement. What does that look like? And if we're not taking ground, if we're not, picking up our shield of faith, I think ultimately we find ourselves in this false sense of, comfort, and it's just a bad look.
Mm-hmm. Can you think of a time in your life when you were kind of in a little bit more of a testing your faith season, like just not super confident in stepping out, and God showed himself to be faithful and worth your whole weight? Like, I know we're talking in metaphors and generalities, but like an actual experience where you were struggling but took that step out in faith, and what happened?
Yeah, I'll cheat with the easy one. Easy for me because it wasn't me. But I look at my wife and what she's done with Hope Street Food Pantry, and how that, like, she felt this burden for the community, and there was nothing there, nothing. And just she had to build that from scratch. But every step of that was her saying, God, what's the next step? God, what's the next step? Is it this? Is it because there's many pathways she could have gone with it, but she kept stepping out in that faith that, again, we're sitting here talking about like, yeah, it comes out of that confidence of the past decisions of stepping into to his goodness. But there is also that part two where it's that fear of, but what if this is the one time the chair doesn't hold?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
What if it's the chair with the weak legs? And so just watching her walk that and watching God walk that with her that through that whole experience, and then seeing what's become of it now is just, it's mind-boggling and inspirational.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, I have a few. I try not to be like stay on repeat with the same stories.
And it doesn't even have to, like, it can be a super big step,
Yeah.
but it could be a smaller thing that you were just wrestling to trust God with. Or you can do one of your stories on repeat.
No, I don't want to do a story on repeat. So I remember it was Center City days, and it was when I was serving in the tech capacity. What a humbling season that was. And
You did it with integrity.
I remember it was a frustrating Sunday for me. And I remember telling Marilyn, I never said it. I was like, you know what? I'm just going to let John know, like, I don't want this position. I will do it. Like, I know I was able to get a small stipend. I was like, I just want to help and serve, and I'm stepping back from all this. I just was so frustrated. And some of it was, is this where I end up? Like, is this as far as I go? In an area that is a reminder that I'm insufficient. And I remember just saying, I don't want this. I'm just gonna come because I'm gonna be faithful no matter if it's a position or not. And I was gonna just talk to him. I remember after service on Sunday and say, I don't want this position no more. I'll still serve in this capacity. I don't want a title. I don't want no stipend. I'm just gonna come and do it. Like, I don't want. And somehow that would mentally free me from anything. But I never did have the conversation. I stuck it through, and I'm not saying that is the reason why I'm able to serve where I serve today. But what I go back to is just staying the course and remaining faithful to him for whatever he put in my path to kind of steward, with no certainty of what the future held. And those are moments that I'm grateful that I didn't. I'm not saying if people do this is what they're doing, but I felt like I would have been throwing a tantrum, and I quit. Like, I'm glad I didn't throw a tantrum and just say I'm done. I'm not doing this no more. That I just kind of stayed faithful with it and kept moving forward. And it's just a moment that I can accredit it back to just my personal struggle with him. And he still helped me through that tension of like, I'm done, Lord. I'm so done. Like, and then he helped me get over it and then find peace once again. And then things evolved and, other opportunities arise. So I appreciate those tense moments, those humbling moments. But you don't always appreciate it the same way in the moment itself. But I think that was one of those things where he came through the way I needed for him to, which is just one day at a time, buddy. Like, stop looking so far ahead. Just stay faithful today. And it helped me keep the peace inside, I think.
What about you?
I can think of a lot of times. Honestly, I feel like I'm in a season right now where my faith is being really grown by the Lord. And so kind of related to that, I think when I first moved into the condo that I have lived in 5 years this month, I knew the Lord had purpose for me there. Like, I didn't have any idea that we would be doing Hope City East anytime. Like, we weren't talking about that yet, but just the sense that, no, he created a way for me to get into this home when it made no sense whatsoever, the way that I got this place. But I just was like, I can't meet anyone, like, because I'm not one to put myself out there. I know that's weird for people at Hope City to think about, but like, when I'm not the pastor, like, I'm not one to walk right up to a neighbor and be like, hey, nice to meet you. Come over to my house. Like, and there are 2 times that I feel like he really nudged me and I was obedient, even though I was terrified. And the first was the one and only HOA meeting that I've gone to, because I was just like, this is where neighbors are going to be. I still, to this day, I'm like, I didn't know that's just where neighbors went to yell at each other. But but I prayed that I would leave that place with one friend, and the Lord did it. Like, that was a friend that I went out for kind of awkward chips and salsa. A week later, we walked to a Mexican restaurant in the neighborhood and kind of got to know each other. But years later now, like, I literally just went over last week and brought dinner and ate dinner with her and her husband and her daughter. I got to marry her and her husband, like, walk through that whole season of life. They've been part of the church. And it all just started because I was like, okay, God, I'm not comfortable, but like, I'm going to go and just trust that you're going to bring someone in the neighborhood that I can know. And then again, when we were kind of starting more of an official, we want an expression in this area. And I was like, okay, well, it's got to start with me. I kept being like, someone with a family, so it's not as weird to be like, I'm this one person and come over, and maybe someone with a house so they have a yard and more space. I've got 700 square feet and it gets tight. But the Lord was like, use what I've given you. Mm-hmm. And I hung a sign by the mailboxes in my building that just said, hey, I'm having people over. We're calling it neighborhood family dinner. This is what I'm making. I would love for you to come. Because at the time I didn't even have phone numbers for most of my neighbors. And it's something that seems easy now. Like, now I do that regularly. But at the time, I was terrified. Like, they're going to think that I'm so strange. Like, this is going to make neighbors like me less. Because, like, who is that girl? But it was the opposite. Like, a couple neighbors came. A lot didn't. But a lot of them asked me about it. And, like, it's opened so many doors to my neighbors because they know that I care about them. But I kid you not, like, I had to pray before I went down, and I was like listening to make sure that no one was out there, because I was like, I don't want to talk to someone while I'm hanging out this invitation. God forbid I invite someone in person. But to see his faithfulness in that, as small as it may seem, it helps me trust him in this season where it's like, now we're talking buildings, and that's so outside of my comfort zone and skill set. But like, he's been in this every step of the way. So that would be my answer right now.
Yeah. I don't know what this has been an advancement season in my life and in the life of the church that I've been humbly called to shepherd. And so in seasons of advancement, there's always going to be opportunities for faith. Like, there's just it's the way that works. So from the day, I sat down and had a cup of coffee with the founding pastor of North, my man, Mike Shield.
What's his name?
Mike Shield. Mike Fields. No, it's funny.
I know. Think about that.
I know a Mike Shields. So Mike Field.
Say that thing with confidence.
Shields of faith.
That's faith.
Shield, yeah. Our assistant superintendent. From the time we had coffee, like, I don't know, the moment the conversation came up about the potential of what he's doing, and we had been talking about the idea of multiple expressions For those who maybe don't know our language, just multiple locations of our church. We immediately, we've been talking about that 3 years before my coffee with Mike. And then we have the conversation with Mike, and this seems like God may be opening the door, and Pastor Mike leans over and, kind of asks what God may be doing. And there's two things that you can be assured of in advancement. It's harder than you think, and there's more headwinds than you can imagine. And so every yes, as exciting as the yes was, there was also this preparation in me, and like, better make sure that armor's tight, right? And make sure that shield's close, kind of make sure that those shoes are on, because you're going to walk into a lot of conversations where if you don't bring peace, it ain't going to be in the room. You're going to have a lot of nights that if that helmet's not strapped on tight, there's going to be a lot of just some thoughts of the enemy trying to sneak in and steal, because that's what he does. So this has been, and then the moment we said yes to East, it has been on from, one of the tougher seasons, leadership-wise, even from a home front. So, I feel like every day there's faith questions and conversations and decisions being made. And I'm just going to tell you, I'm at a point right now, and I know that this is probably just because of the fresh nature of it. I don't want it any other way. If this is the cost of making him known in our city, let's go. Right? Like, if it's difficult because on the other side we're warring against the gates of hell, then let it be difficult. And that's not me being flippant, because I'm also not the person that's ignoring the size and scope of the faith challenges. They're significant, but our God is big, right? Like, to what John was speaking about earlier with faith. When we struggle with issues of resource, our God's resources are unlimited. When we struggle with issues of strength, our God is, his power is unlimited. When we talk about issues of health, our God is the great physician. So it's tough to pinpoint one, but every decision we make seems to be another faith decision. And it's been a great season for that, for sure.
Talk a little bit about the Roman shield. I kind of want to shift to how faith serves as a shield, the way we've talked about all the different pieces of armor. And we're just going to mash together all of the points. Faith setting your vision and preparing you for coming will save, connects you to others.
The scatum.
Yeah. Talk about how it worked.
The scatum was 3.5 feet tall from shoulder to shoulder. And what it did was, of course, serve to protect you from, according to the writer, fiery arrows. So the first thing I do believe that it did was it set a soldier's vision. When you held up the scatum the way that was supposed to, or the shield the way that was supposed to, it dictated what you can see, and that was ahead, right? So we talked a little bit through the passage in Colossians that speaks to setting our eyes on the things unseen, which again sounds a lot like the passage in Hebrews, right? That we had set our eyes to heaven. How do I set my eyes to heaven? Well, you set your faith and your hope on things unseen. That when this took a different nuance for me, even from when I actually preached it to when I prepared it, because as I was studying, it was okay, this sets my direction. But then I started, as I was preaching, started thinking towards the idea of John, well, like, does that mean we're isolating ourselves to just I'm not, hyper spiritual, that all it is Jesus. Like, no, it's just, if there is anything that needs my attention, it's got to come through him. Everything gets filtered through him because I'm not looking anywhere else. And so once I saw it in that light, that vision not only set my vision, but then the shield does then prepare me, because if it's all coming through him, then that means he's preparing me on all fronts.
It's why that windshield illustration was such a great picture, because all of us have experience with windshields, even though not all of us have experience with actual shields. And it's that same idea. Like, you do have to keep your eyes out on the road, and you talked about driver's ed and that sort of thing. But I just thought that was such a beautiful idea of, no, everything is through the shield of faith. Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool. I lost my train of thought. Well, I mean, you were talking about.
Yeah. So that's how our vision is set. And then also how a shield prepares us for what's coming.
Mm-hmm. Fiery arrows. I guess do a little brief, whoever wants to do how they actually worked. And then I want to talk about what that actually looks like. What are the fiery arrows that the enemy is throwing at us even today?
Well, arrows work by having a sharp, pointy thing that sticks inside of you and hurts.
Yeah.
Have any of y'all ever been shot with an arrow, by the way? I
Are you about to tell me that you got shot by an arrow?
You got shot by an
I
arrow?
did not.
You're
I did
still
not.
here.
However, I was with a group of buddies, and we were, 10, 11, 12, and we were playing Robin Hood, which is where you take arrows and you shoot them up in the air and you watch them come down.
I thought you just robbed from the rich and gave to the poor.
No. And unfortunately, and this is the second shout out this gentleman has gotten on this podcast, but one of my neighborhood buddies, Jeremy Leggett, got shot when the arrows came back down, hit him in the leg.
Leggett got shot in the leg.
Leggett got shot in the leg. He's also the one that beat me up. Every fight I ever had with him, he always won. It's not like he beat me up. He wasn't a bully, but every time we got in a fight,
He ain't win that one.
no, I didn't shoot that one either, though.
Lost that to that arrow.
But that's as we were prepared, as I was going through this, that's what I just kept thinking about, like just even from the arrow perspective, because without getting too graphic, I remember the sound, the sight. Yeah, to say the least.
We'll put those in post.
That's right.
And,
Don't actually do that.
And just even having that mindset of, if he would have had anything, a trash can lid, even, anything that could have just blocked that, just the least little bit would have made such a huge difference. Mm-hmm. And then comparing all that to sitting here going, it's that same thing, but now they're on fire. Mm-hmm. And I don't think it's as much, you did a little bit more research into it about, it wasn't just they were on fire, but they carried the explosive, if you will. They carried the combustive to when they hit.
It
spreads.
Yeah, the idea was maximum destruction. Like the piercing of the arrow is one thing. Remember, often in this analogy, the thought would be not just how do I get to a soldier, but even to some degree, when you're talking flames and combustibles, it's going to stick into that shield. Mm-hmm. And now the thought is that maybe some of this fire would do even more damage than what was first inflicted. And because fire spreads, the arrow might hit you, but the flame may burn the person next to you. Mm. And we see that a lot in families, right? Like we see that a lot in our faith journey. If we're not careful, that's something that the enemy had intended for us. It's residual damage is not just something that may be deep in us, but also something that we then inflict on those around us because we don't know how to handle the weight of that flame. We don't know how to handle the damage that's being created. So I see that so many times when dealing with people who've navigated deep seasons of trauma and distress, and it's, deep wounds of a dad, deep, wounds that are caused by a loved one who didn't know how to handle their own damage, and now they've kind of allowed that flame is caught onto their kids or into the workplace. You've been in those meetings where someone had a horrible weekend, something crazy happens, and then they're biting everybody's heads off, and now this person's frustrated, and this person's walking in anxiety, and this, what in the world happened? Well, someone got hit by an arrow and that fire spread.
Yeah. So what are some of the ways, I think you used some examples in your sermon on Sunday, like what are some of the real life examples of the way the enemy is throwing fiery arrows or launching them or shooting them, whatever one does with an arrow or a dart?
Yeah, I think for a lot of us, the attack is a lot more cerebral than we think. Like, so, oh my goodness, I just lost my job. So the arrow might be a loss of a job, a shifting of as someone gets laid off, someone gets company downsizes. But then the flame that comes with that is that thought, maybe what they said in that exit interview about you was right. Maybe you really weren't worth your weight. Maybe that's because you're not worth what you think you are. And slowly but surely, what burns in that fire, that fiery part, is what does a lot more of the damage than the fact you simply lost your job. Maybe you just lost your job because the season's time to change, but because of the nature of the enemy and how cerebral he is, he will use it to attack our weaknesses and allow those flames to burn parts of us that, quite honestly, this has nothing to do with that. So I think often we just have to be mindful dealing with our own damage and also the damage of those around us, that often it's not the arrow, it's the fire that we're dealing with.
Mm-hmm. Trying to decide where to ask. So kind of moving into the way the Roman armies moved is that they were in these like units. There was a picture that was on the screen on Sunday that was so helpful, where they'd be in like a block and the front guys would have their shields up in front of them, and then the guys in the back would have them up over their heads, protecting them and the people behind them, so that when those arrows came, like everyone was protected. And so I guess the question I want to ask is, how do we actually raise our shields, whether it's us being attacked or someone that we love is on fire from one of those arrows? Like, how do we step in and actually raise that shield of faith, not just say, oh, this is what's happening here? Like, because I know for me, I can diagnose all day long, but sometimes I'm like, cool, I recognize that this is a thought that my friend heard in their exit interview that is totally destroying them. Mm-hmm. What do I do?
I tend to lean, again, back to the practicality of a shield. If it sets my vision, I decide that everything is filtered through the person of Jesus. So what I do is filter everything through the person of Jesus, right? I'm filtering all those conversations that have me in a place, right? I'm filtering all of the noise. It's got me thinking a certain way. I'm filtering all of that exit interview. I'm filtering that email that I got from my loved one, that letter she left before she walked out the house. I'm filtering all that through the person of Jesus. And I know that that's not, John, well, like, how practical is that? That's what it means to carry the shield of faith. That everything is set and centered to him, that's what I'm holding up. So when I'm feeling a certain way, my feelings are subject to what I know about the person of Christ. Mm-hmm. And in so many ways, you're going to hate me because this sounds like I'm retelling a story. But the bottom line is, this is where prayer becomes critical. Mm-hmm. This is when leaning in on community, because those katums were actually designed to connect together, right? Mm-hmm. Like, if there wasn't that design, that intentionality, I would argue we're never more effective in the idea of protecting against these fiery darts than when we're in close proximity. So, it's funny because even within the concept of this collection of people, when one goes down, I'm able to reach with the other arm and pick up. Right? Like, I can't, there's only so much I can do, but because I'm relying on the distributed vigilance of the whole, I'm able to spend time caring for the one. If there's not a diligence, if there's not a distributed vigilance of the whole, then how could I possibly take my attention away from in order to divert to someone else? So I think that becomes critical. And I know that that's maybe not the practical answer you want, but I think for so many,
I just think so many of us listen to conversations like this and it's like, that's great, but what's my first step?
Yeah. So for me this weekend, as I navigated some of these issues of faith that I'm walking through, these fiery darts that seem to be slung across, there is a tendency, if I'm not careful, just because I know me, I can try to numb this through mindless TV watching or mindless reading or mindless scrolling. I have to practically choose, no, I'm going to spend time in prayer. Mm-hmm. I know that I can make this feel like it's going away and it's not. I need to bring it to the one who is greater than. So there has been intentional moments of prayer all weekend long, even this morning, more than normal, an intentional time of just saying, here is what I see. I want to filter all this through you. And I know that some people are still going to struggle with that. And I'm just going to tell you that's as practical as I can get. I have to be reminded of the word. So in seasons like this, I make sure that my nose is stuck in a Bible. Quicker than I call my friends, quicker than I'm listening to other people's opinions, it starts with my nose in the word. And the reminder of who he is, time connecting with the person of Jesus in his presence, ultimately is as powerful as you can imagine when it comes to picking up that shield of faith.
Mm-hmm. I think about Jesus, who I don't know exactly what his faith looked like because he was fully God and fully man. I know about his prayer life, but I've been like holding this tension between this picture we've painted of like you do life in community. It's more dangerous for you to be alone. Mm-hmm. And also the fact that Jesus would get up early, go away from the crowd, and be alone with the Father. There was both. I love both. Like, this is just kind of what the Lord is reminding me. So this weekend was kind of similar to you, like a very intentional. I'm on rocky ground. Like I need to be alone. And the Lord corrected me in that thinking. As an introvert, it's easy for me to want to be alone. And he said, you don't need time alone. You need time alone with me. There's a difference between that and it's temporary. So I don't know what it was that you said that sparked me to kind of bring that up, but it was like Saturday, because Saturday was prettier and I connect better with God outside. Like I used my weather app and planned that my Sabbath would be Saturday instead of Friday this week. And I had the luxury of just driving to the mountains, finding a trail, bringing my Bible and journal, and like being with God on that hike, and then being with God at that waterfall for a couple hours. And but it was all to make me a better shield holder coming back into community. And I think we need both. And like you need that time where you're in prayer, you're fasting. Like we've been talking about fasting a lot on the East Launch team because it's one of those disciplines that I don't think we fully grabbed hold of in 2026, and how that allows your faith to grow because you are submitting your appetites to the Lord. But then you also need that time to step back in and be like, hey, here's what I think I heard from the Lord this week, and how are you doing? And you didn't get a chance to do this. Like there's some people in our lives who have walked through some really difficult medical things this weekend. And like, how can I hold my shield near you because I have this time to be away with the Lord? Mm-hmm. I don't know where I'm going with this, but it's
Well, I would say Jesus kind of modeled this for us, right? Like often when he got away, he took 3 with him. Mm-hmm. Then he tells them, you wait here and I'm going further. Mm-hmm. And I think what that does is it does provide an opportunity to mentor, right? Like it's an opportunity. They're like, oh, this is what prayer looks like. Mm-hmm. But then it also allows for them to understand kind of where the vulnerability of the Savior of the world, that the disciples were close enough to hear him cry tears of blood.
Yeah.
Right? The vulnerability of the creator of the world at his most, this moment. And I always struggle with the Garden of Gethsemane because he is all human and yet he's all God. Mm-hmm. And in this moment, a lot of this feels like, man, the grief, the nature of what he's dealing with. And he didn't choose to shut that off from humanity. Mm-hmm. We don't have that story if he doesn't bring 3 with him and sets him at a distance, but then models what it looks like to go before the Father. So I'm with you. I do think that there are times where these things are, but in the same breath, I would tell you, there are also moments, and we do this pretty well as a team. I think we're getting better at this, but I think we do this pretty well as a team, where I will get a phone call from John, or I'll get a call from Ashley or Justin. It's like, hey, this is what I'm dealing with, or hey, I know you're dealing with this, just know I'm with you. And I think that that's the beauty of a faith community. I don't like to blast all our stuff out, but in the same breath, I don't want to paint a picture like that. We've arrived to this place of this, super spirituality that we just trying to bring everybody up to. The truth is, all of us are struggling within the context of what it means to struggle as a believer and moving forward. Why are you struggling, John? Because we are advancing the kingdom of God. There will be struggle when you don't want to struggle, don't advance the kingdom of God. But in that struggle, what I love about this team in particular is you came back from that hike and there was phone calls and text messages. John the other day at our prayer night sat down next to me and was like, hey man, this is what I'm lifting you up for. It's that collectively that I think is the beautiful picture of, I need to get alone with the Lord. I need to find my people. This is what it means to be in that tortoise formation, holding up our shkatams, all for the glory of God as we advance the kingdom together.
Yeah, I love it. So before we do cutting room floor, what would you say? We've kind of talked around it, but to someone who is watching or listening who just feels like they are struggling to hold on to whatever wisp of faith they have, like how would you encourage them in this moment to raise their shield, to hold on?
Yeah, I think it's how I ended both services. Just be reminded of who you're holding on to. He doesn't fail, man. He doesn't. It might not look the way that you want it to look, but he doesn't fail. He doesn't get it wrong. He's not scared. He's not shook. None of this caught him off guard. He's not waiting for the checkbook to balance. He's got it. I think for me at least, and maybe you guys can speak to this, for me, in moments where I find myself holding on, I just need to be reminded of his faithfulness. Mm-hmm. And it's the reason why I often will spend time remembering the gift of your faith journey is that we can remember his faithfulness. Mm-hmm. And if not for anything else, I was 15 years old and lost in my sin, and at a public school, he decided to call me. Like, he didn't need to do it. And he's been faithful ever since. So just be reminded. Mm-hmm. And that's what works for me. I don't know about you guys, but.
Yeah, I mean, I would definitely go that route as well. And I would also encourage that person to reach out to someone else, especially when you know you're tired. I do know that's probably the hardest time to try to invite someone in if you haven't done any work prior to.
Yeah.
But that is why the community is so important. When I know I'm overwhelmed, and it's even hard for me to remind myself, like I could remind myself of what he's done, but I know when I'm really discouraged, I might feel like I've tapped out his resource to save me once again. Mm-hmm. Or there's no guarantee he's going to do it again because he's done it enough, to then lean into someone else who, with their shield of faith, can cover me in my weak moment and encourage me and remind me of the truth, or remind me what they see in me or how they see God's hand on my life. That's the importance of the shield of faith, because it doesn't only protect me and help me to grow. I can do that for someone else when they're down. So I would encourage them, bring someone else in the fold with you that you trust, and just let them kind of cover you with their faith in that moment, trusting with you, believing for you, praying over you. Because those things, they change the game, but we do have to be open to receive help, and sometimes that's hard for us.
Yeah. I was going to say the exact same thing with that. Just add to it, like, sometimes it's not just finding that one or two persons. It's finding that whole group. That whole formation works because it's 10, 15, 20 soldiers. Yes, having that one or two people in your life that can speak into you and cover you, absolutely important. But sometimes it's also necessary to have that larger group to help bring that coverage.
Yeah. Okay, cutting room floor. What didn't make the message, or didn't make this conversation that you want to bring up?
But the only thing that I feel like we left out, but I feel like it's implied, I think it's the overarching thing, is just we didn't go as much into the protection. When I think of a shield off the bat, it's protection. And that's just not where this landed, although it is the overarching concept of it, but yeah.
Yeah.
I think it was just faith alone, an example that we said the word skatum as much as we did.
Yeah.
I never said
Yeah,
that.
he never
John
said it
bailed,
once.
man.
Roman Shield works for me, yo.
Yeah.
Cutting room floor. Dom's getting married
Dom's
this
Let's
week.
go.
Should we bring him on the pod? Should we
Yeah.
just come here,
Let's do
Dom?
it.
Let me see.
Come
Let me
on,
see
Dom.
your.
Speaking
Let me
of
see your
students.
happy. I can't stop smiling face. Just come over
This
here.
is-
Stand between me and your pops.
Some of the last single hours of Dom's
That's right.
life.
We got
Here's my seed.
assistant director in the house. My boy Jaden is cutting. You got the.
Is this even in it?
You got the video.
his cut
Oh,
off.
awesome. So Dom, getting excited?
I'm excited. I'm excited. Dang, this sucks being here. I'm not gonna lie.
Any last marriage advice for Dom as he gets ready for the big day?
Separate blankets. That's my marriage advice to everyone. She gets her own blanket. You get your own blanket.
Okay, Dad. Anything you want to leave for your seed?
Editing this podcast.
No, I feel like Dom and I talk a good bit, man. We talk a good bit. He's open
good.
to asking questions, which again I love and respect about him. No, I feel good. Yeah.
Well, I did marriage counseling with him for 4 weeks, so he got all my advice. So I'm tapped out. So we're happy for you, man. We love you. We're quickly learning how to love Marissa, and it's been exciting to see her engage in our community. We're excited about the next couple of days. So, I mean, let's give it up for Dom one time. All right, go switch.
He's like, I'm never going to do that again.
Never.
Bring Marissa next time.
Oh, that'd be great. She would love it.
We'll do a newlywed show.
We should.
Game show.
Yeah.
Would you
All right.
rather?
Well, next Sunday, when Dom is married, where are we headed?
We are on, oh man, why? Oh, because sermon prep hasn't happened yet. Like in my
Yeah,
head.
we've changed up our rhythm.
Yeah, normally it's Monday. So we are on the
Helmet of
Helmet of
Salvation.
Salvation.
I should
Oh,
just start
this
asking
is-
myself this question.
This is a good one.
Yeah.
This is a good one. The mind is such a, specifically in 2026, this is such a target of the enemy and such a brilliant weapon that we have in protecting the mind.
Yeah. I don't know if we're supposed to say this or not, but we got Pastor Angel preaching for the first time.
Yeah, he is.
I mean, not his first time, but the first time at Hope City.
Yeah.
So make sure that you're here. We're at 9 and 11 at our North and West Expressions, and we'll see you Sunday.